Ma'am, the other thing that we know is that not only is there this indication that she was manipulative at that age, isn't it true that after she...
Objection, mischaracterizing the testimony. Manipulative at that age. That's not what it was.
Sustained rephrase.
With regard, isn't it true that we know that at that age, whatever the age that was, that she was perceived to be somebody who played the victim even though she was not abused? In addition to that, isn't it true that your investigation revealed...
Objection, comment, question.
Overruled. Overruled.
Isn't it true that your investigation revealed that after she killed Mr. Alexander, she was very manipulative?
After she killed, well,
Yes.
Part one, I have one collateral source that says she was manipulative. So when you characterize me saying that she was manipulative, that is incorrect. Part two is, yes, I'm not sure what you're talking about in terms, if you could describe what you mean by manipulative.
No.
Afterwards, I would
I'm asking
answer
you
it.
whether or not you remember, as you're sitting there, any information from any source indicating that the defendant was manipulative shortly after she killed Mr. Alexander.
Manipulative regarding what or to whom?
Manipulative is do you understand what the word manipulative means, right?
Well, I'm not sure how you mean it, Mr. Martinez.
Use the Webster Dictionary definition of it. What does manipulative mean to you?
Manipulative can mean manipulating facts. It can be deceiving people. Is that what you're asking me?
I'm asking you for your definition of manipulative. That's what I'm asking.
If you're asking me if she...
No, I'm not. I'm asking for a definition of Webster's...
Objection, Judge. He's not allowing her to finish her answer.
Overruled. Ask your next question.
Give me your definition of manipulative, whatever it may be.
My definition?
Yes, as you applied it in this case.
I'm sorry, what's your objection?
Asked and answered. She already answered this question.
Overruled. You may answer the question.
That someone can manipulate or deceive or... Gee, I haven't been asked for a Webster's Dictionary definition, but basically that you can manipulate data means you can change them, that you can deceive or tell half-truths, that, you know.
And with regard to the defendant, isn't it true that you received information that she was manipulative shortly after, in her relationship with men, shortly after the killing?
With men?
Yes.
With what men?
Well, do you remember, do you even have any memory of your notes involving what the defendant did after she returned to Wairika?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
Are you talking about her trip to see Ryan in Utah?
No, ma'am.
Are you talking about her experience in the restaurant? I have no idea what specifically, Mr. Martinez, you're talking about.
Do you remember her experiences at the Purple Plum? Do you remember
Yes.
about that?
Yes.
And do you remember that you have information involving the Purple Plum with regard to her interaction with men?
Yes.
And that interaction with men indicated that she was...
Objection, Judge.
May continue.
Ma'am, do you need your notes to refresh your recollection as to the incident at the Purple Plum?
Is this regarding, there were several interviews about the Purple Plum, so I'm not sure which interview you're referring to, Mr. Martinez.
I'm referring to the one involving whether or not the defendant was manipulative with men.
There was an interview with a waitress who said she was manipulative or was only nice to good-looking men.
How about the interview with the manager, Gary Brinkman? Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with it. I don't remember every detail of it. If you
All right,
want me
let me
to
go
look
ahead
at
and
that.
provide that to you then.
Sure.
Take a look at Exhibit 610. They treat it all, including the margins.
Sure.
I may have it back. You're done reviewing it, correct?
Yes, I am.
these notes are in your handwriting, correct?
Yes, they are.
And you completed them as part of your investigation in this case, correct?
I was taking notes on the interview, yes.
And this is what you did with regard to this investigation. You would look at collateral sources and you would take notes, correct?
Correct.
And you would use them either then or later as part of the evaluation. It's something you considered, right?
Yes,
And in this particular case, there was an individual that was the manager of the Purple Plum, right?
correct.
And you talked to the defendant. She worked at the Purple Plum at some point, right?
Yes, she did.
And when she worked at the Purple Plum, there was this indication, or your investigation revealed, was that the defendant was manipulative towards men, right?
Objection, foundation. Timing.
Sustained.
Well, ma'am, what do your notes indicate that, well, do you want the date, ma'am? Take a look at the date on Exhibit 610, if that refreshes your recollection as to when this happened. I'll point it out to you.
Okay.
What date are we talking about where this manipulation occurred?
June 13th, 08.
And during this manipulation, it involved men, the defendant and men, correct?
Correct.
And specifically, it involved the defendant, her interaction with men, correct?
Correct.
And your investigation revealed that she would feign.
Objection, hearsay.
Approach, please.
Part of the investigation that you found out was that the defendant was manipulative in her interaction with men, correct?
Objection.
Overruled. You may answer yes or
Correct.
no.
She was flirtatious with them. I don't know if she was manipulative with them. He says she used them.
All right. Using men, given your previous definition, that's someone who's manipulative, correct?
That would be correct.
And so, given that, isn't that something that it's something that you considered and ultimately rejected in favor of the defendant, right?
Actually, I looked at behavior after the homicide, and that was after the homicide,
Right.
that I would consider would be aberrant behavior, and according to her other history in working in restaurants, that was never part of it. And at working at Casa Ramos, that was not part of it, according to the owner. So I looked at behavior after the murder or after the killing, and I would say that unusual aberrant behavior would be part of that.
And that's your assessment, if you will, of her behavior, correct?
Yes,
And that's your assessment of her behavior, even though the indications are what they are as part of the investigation, correct?
the indications,
Overruled.
they're contrary indications, with Casa Ramos differently than Purple Plum.
But my point is that you decided to disregard these indications that she was manipulative as part of your assessment in this, as part of your opinion in this case, right?
I didn't disregard them, I considered them.
You considered them, but chose to find them to not be of enough value to factor into your assessment, right?
I factored in behavior her behavior toward men prior to the killing. I factored in her behavior with both restaurants. I factored them all in.
You've already told us that, but my question to you is more pointed. You came in here and you indicated that the defendant was manipulated by Mr. Alexander, correct?
Abused by Mr. Alexander.
All right, and that has a component of manipulation, correct?
Yes, it would.
And in fact, in this particular case, what we have is the defendant exhibiting manipulative behavior after she killed him, right?
Correct.
And what you're saying is, even though she's exhibiting manipulative behavior, I'm not going to believe that manipulative behavior. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I'm not saying that.
So you
I'm
do
saying
believe-
I believe that she could have been manipulative with men at that time.
And
I'm not disregarding that.
if she is manipulative with men, you would agree that Travis Alexander was a man, right?
I said she was.
Yes or no?
Her testimony as to when supposed manipulation took place.
Overruled.
Yes or no? Was Mr. Alexander a man?
Yes, he was.
And you've just told us that she could be manipulative with men. You just told us that,
I
right?
said at this period of time, she was manipulative. And in Casa Ramos, which was during that period of time, the statements were that she wasn't. So I have no evidence prior to Mr. Alexander that she was manipulative with men. I just don't have that evidence.
What you're telling me is that somebody is telling you, according to you here, that there's no information on the left side, but on the right side, somebody's being very specific that she's manipulative, right? That's what you're telling us, right?
Objection mischaracterizes the testimony specific as to manipulation. There's no specificity.
Overruled. You
Right?
may-
That's what you're telling us. You have two competing views, according to you, right?
I have competing views
Yes or no?
after the killing.
Yes or no? You have two competing views. Casa Ramos on the left side, Purple Plum on the right side. You have two competing views, right?
Those two competing views.
And what you decided to do as part of this evaluation is tell me, well, I believed what people were saying at Casa Ramos, right?
No, I did not say that.
Well, you are disbelieving what people are saying at the Purple Plum, right?
I am also looking at,
Yes or no? Are you disbelieving what people are saying?
I have other information about what people said at the Purple Plum that I also took into account, Mr. Martinez.
And so what you're saying is that you're disbelieving what was said at the Purple Plum about her being manipulative. That's what you're telling me, right?
Even if I say I believe that she was manipulative at that time, it doesn't mean I believe as a characteristic that she is. I could believe that she was manipulative at that time. It does not, it's situational. It doesn't mean that I believe as a characteristic of Miss Arias that she's a manipulative person.
And what we know with regard to this assessment is that when she was younger, we have information from you that she was not abused and she liked to play the victim, right? You have that information, right?
You're
Sir, don't answer the
mischaracterizing.
question. Don't answer the question. I'm sorry. Repeat
The que-
objection.
The question is mischaracterizing the testimony.
Overruled. You may answer.
Right? You told us about that when she was younger, right? That you have that information, right?
I have one friend
Yes
saying
or
that.
no?
I have one friend,
Yes or no?
yes, one friend.
And then you're now telling her, and this is when she was younger, right? And now you have her immediately after the murder, 5 days after the murder, exhibiting manipulative behavior. Yes or no?
Yes,
So what you're saying, though, is at one, you have an expanse of years in between, right?
yes,
And what you're choosing to say is, well, even though there was this behavior here when she was younger, and there's the same behavior when she was older, you're choosing to say that was aberrant. That is not something that was a characteristic of hers. That's what you're saying, right?
I'm saying that what I hear from one teenage friend of hers is limited compared to what I heard from other sources in regard to Miss Arias. And so there is a preponderance of evidence on the one side and not on the other.
And
That's what I'm
saying
saying.
is that your standard that you use when evaluating this evidence, the preponderance of the evidence? Is that what you're using? One is more likely true than not? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that when I have numerous collateral sources.
I'm asking for your definition of preponderance of evidence.
And
More likely than-
I'm going to tell you what it is.
Is it, my question is more pointed than that. Does it mean more likely than not?
No,
You're using it differently.
I am.
What's the standard in one sentence that preponderance of the evidence means to you?
For me, preponderance of evidence means that I have looked at all of the evidence that I have available to me, and I have gone through it and looked at what appears to be the truth. What for me makes sense, what for me, after I weigh all of the evidence, makes the most sense to me. And that's what I have to go on. What I have been presented with is what I have to go on.